Hi everyone, this is Crypto Gordon Freeman, and you are listening to episode 6 of the Club 21M podcast. I'm your host, Crypto Gordon Freeman. So I'm thrilled that for this episode, I'm going to be having a delightful conversation with my friend PyroJason. And although we attempted to keep the discussion on the topic of Jason's experience in the early days of Bitcoin and his experience with mining, we found it very difficult to stay within the confines of one thing. He's a really fun person to talk to. So we're going to make an attempt, maybe as often as once a week, maybe even twice a week. We're going to continue these discussions. It's simply too much fun to do without. So without further ado, this is Crypto Gordon Freeman talking with friend PyroJason. So I am here with my friend PyroJason. PyroJason, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
All righty. So we're like all going to be the incognito people of Bitcoin. So yeah, PyroJason is with my friends at the Crypto Cringe Show. So we thought that it would be fun to do this impromptu podcast. And PyroJason has been into Bitcoin for a pretty long time. And actually, there's a lot of us that probably wouldn't know more than just there is such a thing as Bitcoin. And sometimes those cypherpunk people talk about it, or cypherpunk people talk about it. And every once in a while, one of those investigative shows talks about people trying to extort money in Bitcoin. But it was really people like PyroJason who were there before the rest of us that kind of saw some of the interesting, whether it was the tech side of things or just something fun and miney, geeky kind of fun stuff that it took us a lot longer to catch on. So I thought it'd be really fun to pick your brain about when you got into Bitcoin and what you thought of it and what kind of built the pyramid of Bitcoin up in your mind to make it even more and more interesting over the years.
Oh man, that's a wild ride. That whole history is a combination of really fun and kind of nauseating. And man, I wish I had known that things would be the way they are today, because I would have taken it more seriously back then.
Well, I think everybody would have. That's hindsight is really easy once it's already happened.
Yeah, in terms of when I got started, it was I think October 2013. I think.
Nice.
It may have been before or after. I don't remember. I just remember that I don't remember exactly where I heard of Bitcoin. It was somewhere online talking about, the centralization of power in banks and saying, hey, there's this thing that this guy created. Nobody really knows who he is, but it's a great idea. It kind of pulls power from, central government and puts it in the power to the people, puts it in the people's hands. And,
so you're one of those guys. No, just kidding. Go ahead.
Look, if you're into crypto at all and you're not at least kind of those guys, I guess you're in it just for something else. But I'm not crazy with the whole no government, this or that. But I do believe in limited government. But Amen. In terms of the Bitcoin stuff, the early parts of it were really interesting because no one really knew what it was. If you try to talk about it with people, they basically kind of brush it off as some crazy, either a conspiracy theory or just some, weird thing. It's another bubble. It's the tulip thing all over again, which people use that term all the time. It's the, remember what the actual term is because I just forget it, but the tulip thing, that event in history only took place, from what I remember reading, in a very short period of time, maybe a couple months at most. Mm-hmm. And people think it was some, years long thing. No, I mean, Bitcoin has already surpassed, the length of time within its, first couple of years that I knew about it. And, here we are 10 years later. So,
right.
But the Bitcoin mining specifically back then, that was really how I got into it, how I found out about what it was, how it worked. It was just fascinating to me. I wasn't in Bitcoin early enough to see CPU mining, where you could just mine a Bitcoin on your computer sitting there for a few moments. That would have been I don't know who knew about it then, but those were the real OG, cryptopreneur kind of guys. But
Right.
I was definitely into it when you could still mine it with the end of the GPU era. Good luck doing that now, even with GPUs. It's just you're wasting your money. So I got into it when Butterfly Labs was still a company before they were, and I had seen the price, go just over $100. And that to me was like, wow, this hasn't gone away. I thought, at $50, $60, this would be, this can't be sustainable. And then, it kept going. I'm like, okay. It kept going through a couple $100. And then there was a small crash and people started freaking out saying, oh no, it's going to go. It's going, if you say all the people, but the community was pretty small still, even then.
Right.
And, I started seeing some mining hardware show up on eBay, and I said, okay, well, this looks like it's the next step. People are getting out. I'm just going to take a risk and buy some of these used mine where it goes. And it kept going in price for a while. And I remember at one point I was mining. It was, I think, $40 a day.
Nice.
2013 prices, $40 a day. If you can think about what that means now, you might be crying side with me.
I hear you.
But
do you remember so when you started doing the used mining rigs, that was still 2013?
That was 2013, 2014.
Wow.
I kind of, it stayed on and off the next couple of years. At some point I because it hit its all-time high at that time, which was kind of came down, and it kind of kept fizzling out for a while, and volume kept going down. And something I forgot to mention at the beginning of this crypto journey, at least for me, there was no way to buy Bitcoin. There was no way to sell Bitcoin. I mean, Coinbase was a thing, but I, for some reason, was never approved to buy on that. I don't know what that means. If I'm on some kind of list, if there's a list of us on that list, hey, how's it going? But
right.
the whole process was just really interesting because I could mine this idea, this crypto, this Bitcoin, and just store it. And that to me was like, this is fascinating. I don't know what to do with this. And about the time I thought it was kind of going away, I tried selling some online or selling something on eBay and ended up having a big mess there. Do not sell crypto on eBay. Anybody thinking about doing this, just don't. It's not worth it. There's no seller protection on eBay for crypto. They will steal your money and eBay won't help you. PayPal will not help you.
Right.
But that's a whole nother, that could be a whole thing in itself.
We should make a thing of that. I think it'd be fun if we should do at least one of these every week. Just whenever you've got a pocket of time to talk for a half hour or a little bit more than that, it would be really fun. The topics will reveal themselves, but I love talking about this stuff.
Yeah, that could be fun.
I remember two interesting things. I think the $200 to $250 bubble, just going from, remembering back to things. I would always hear it when there's that one person on Facebook that lets Bitcoin is now worth $1. Bitcoin is now worth $10. Bitcoin is now worth 100. And so, we would notice when those things would pop up. But the thing that I was always stuck on was, having studied a lot of things about economics and how they tie into political trends in different countries. And it's just interesting how the idea of money and money flow, and just in general, having some kind of, there's bartering, but then there's having a standard for people to trade back and forth. It's in every single culture in one way or another, but it says the type of money that a people have, a civilization or a government or whatever, it says so much about who's in power, the form that takes. And it's been such a known thing for so long that, you're not allowed to print your own currency. You're not allowed to print fake money. You're not allowed to do that kind of stuff. So when I saw Bitcoin, and it was always, peer-to-peer cash and, cryptocurrency, the word currency in crypto. And so I would always discount the revolution or the movement behind it, because I just felt that the only way that it could continue to exist is by not being a threat. So basically, whether it was technologically speaking or people actually having a use case, using it to do things outside of Bitcoin people, that it must not really be catching on, because it's the kind of thing that governments just don't allow. If it's actually money, they don't let you have your own kind of money. It kind of fits in that counterfeit / extortion / black market kind of thing. And to be honest, I really don't think that Bitcoin would have had as much of that problem through its growth spurt if it wasn't for the Silk Road thing. It kind of, other than Pizza Day, Silk Road became the really successful use case.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the types of people involved in crypto is pretty endless, and there are always the bad players in any type of technology or money or any systems, and that was the Silk Road stuff was definitely that. It definitely spurred some popularity, but I never even knew what that was until I heard it was coming down.
Well, that's the thing, is that most people using Bitcoin, it was Coinbase, Mt. Gox, whatever the Charlie Shrim operation that he had going, and a couple that have already boomed and bust since then. But I mean, people were already thinking more in terms of traditional markets.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot that went on with, and you were talking about cryptocurrencies, that name kind of being, almost an oxymoron in the way that they're trying to separate it from traditional money. But I think it was partly a sales thing, a sales pitch in a way, because this is usually used for the terms of Doge, but one Bitcoin is always worth one Bitcoin, mm-hmm. and the diehard Bitcoins know that the point of all of this was in case the banks self-destruct. This wasn't about like necessarily a government takeover or anything crazy that might happen, but it was, let's say the banks went away overnight. Do we have some way of transferring value that didn't have the inflationary, I guess that's the word, but mm-hmm. the crazy stuff that the bank been going through, killing off money for a long time.
Yep.
If something went wrong with the banks, was there still a way to send value anywhere in the world? And that was specific to Bitcoin, is that it wasn't, it happened to grow in value a lot because USD was involved. But I think that they were prepared to make it happen whether or not, traditional money was involved at all. It was going to be, 1/millionth of a Bitcoin for a loaf of bread. What do you need? Mm-hmm. Here it is.
Right. That's a really important point, I think, because, looking at years like last year, I think it got a lot of people thinking. And I know a lot of people who, I don't want to get into any of the crazy medical stuff because I don't want to lose my channel yet, but, or at least for better reasons, but we certainly learned that, all it takes is a scare on toilet paper, and we realize just how fragile the system is, and infrastructure and distribution chain, trucks on the road, gas supply, every single little thing that we take for granted, having standards for things is a big deal. And I love the fact that Bitcoin as a network, it's in place. There's millions of wallets, not millions of wallets with a lot in them, but there's millions of wallets, and people still are, exercising self-responsibility. It's their own personal property, and they see whatever value in it they see. But in my mind, the earlier you got in, the more you value that thing. Like, some people would probably think that, I just got into Bitcoin. I bought $1,000 worth of Bitcoin at 50 grand, and it's been sitting underneath that ever since. And, I better hold on to that $1,000 because that may be the best it's worth. To me, if I had been fortunate enough to get in, in the early before even the mining rigs were not powerful enough to be on your own, just a single node doing your thing. I mean, I would hold on to that like a treasure, because I believe in the 21 million only, concept behind it, the economic principle behind it.
Oh man, that really, talking about the people getting into it and having this concept, like you were saying, they're buying in, after it went up to 60, 62 or wherever, and came down, at 50, saying, oh man, this is the time to get in. A lot of us are saying, yeah, maybe, or maybe, 45, maybe 40. Here it is at,
Yeah,
it just came back up to 40. So a lot of people getting into crypto for the first time, specifically Bitcoin, who are, they have bags they're holding and they're feeling, let down and like, oh no, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And like, wow, they are unaware of the ride it has taken.
yeah.
There was a time when I did not think Bitcoin would ever be over $1,000. And when it hit 10,000, I'm like, man, there's just, as of course I had not held on to hardly anything. I had a little bit saved from way back in the day, but it wasn't even a whole coin. It was just a portion of a coin. Sure. And I know there are people out there who have held on to their saves, and they're really glad they did. But the who are worried that that the price won't come back up to where they first bought in or whatever, just be patient. Just be patient. This
Agreed.
FUD and FOMO stuff, this is all coming from the new generation of people getting into crypto. Not, age not related, just this set of people getting in, age regardless. Yeah. It's they're seeing this stuff for the first time.
Watching all of the different trends that have been happening, I spend a lot of time in the workroom, as we call it, just staring at the different screens and loading up different angles of things. It's really remarkable, the just amount of sheer importance and prominence and brain power that is on crypto Twitter. Because prior to Bitcoin, I had zero interest in Twitter, maybe 0.03% more interest in Facebook. I just never liked the social media stuff. But when I realized that, there's something, maybe it's true in some other pockets too, but on crypto Twitter, the interest in Bitcoin seems to be, it's almost like, yes, it's true about crypto, but really more so about Bitcoin and sometimes Ethereum and a little bit Litecoin too. But it's like the coin is the superstar, and somebody that is a total stranger, just with a cartoon for their profile pic, can have a conversation directly with Mark Cuban because they both like the same NFT, or this kind of thing. I have a little folder where I've gotten a response from the Winklevi, the doppelganger twins, and from Vitalik. And, I've got like a little list of like, oh, that was cool. They actually answered my question or made fun of me or whatever it was. I don't care. So, I mean, it's really kind of amazing to see how, even in a time like this where celebrityism is such a class type thing, but, for some reason in crypto, the interest is kind of a glue that makes it to where, there's a guy that pretends to be somebody named Greg with a whole bunch of numbers after his name, with a composite of different faces intentionally made to look wrong. And, he daily will try to show a Google image search. His whole goal, in this, alter ego of his is basically to be the number one image search in Google for Greg. But he got
that's a goal.
I know, it's hilarious. He does it as a joke, but he had an actual back and forth with Elon Musk, and as it turned out, it was like an accidental back and forth, but still, who cares? It's not a lot of people more famous than Elon right now, even though I don't like him.
Yeah, he's a mixed bag. There are certain things that I admire about the way that he isn't afraid to just kind of build room stuff, but him in terms of caring about what happens to other people's finances is in his love of Twitter and various ways he speaks.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I can be a critic, but I'm also not at that level. So, I can afford to like him less when I'm at his level. But yeah, I love that aspect of this stuff. And I genuinely believe, that, I mean, there's a geek side of Elon that just likes mining stuff. It's like, you forget that you're a billionaire, but you think that Doge is fun, and oh yeah, wait, I am a billionaire, so maybe they would let me make it a better coin. I mean, I don't think that he just does that stuff to mess around. I think that he actually really wants to screw with stuff and see what would happen.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of his just general interest in what he can do for doing's sake, because he is a doer, for better or worse.
Yeah.
And I think, as anybody, even, small TikTok users love getting attention, him on that level, he may just live on attention. That may be his thing. So anytime he can create ripples in Doge, not XRP, then he will do it.
Yeah, I mean, I literally think that he jumped in on I think it was 1.5 billion. I mean, it was within a week of Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy doing 1.3 billion. I really think it was like, I've been around here longer and I know Doge and I know crypto. You can't have more than me. 1.5. I really think that billionaires kind of think that way. It was like, Richard Branson. Oh my gosh, what's going on with me and names? Bald guy, looks like the not mini me. Amazon. The space race, Elon and Amazon man and Virgin.
Now that you're looking, I won't be able to remember now that you're making it easy to remember him.
I only see his name like 40 times a day, so of course it's not. But I always think of him as Jeff Bezos, of course. Oy. But yeah, I mean, I really think that it's like, what do you do when you're at the top of the food chain and you're interested in this stuff? It's like, he's got a rocket, I need a rocket. And then, Richard's like, they both got rockets, I've got a plane rocket, who's going to get there first? I mean, it's what billionaires do when they're bored.
Yep. Yeah. Was that rocket car? Or I guess it was really air tanks more than rockets, but was that Tesla as well?
I don't know. Oh, the literally sending like they sent the Tesla to the moon kind of thing.
No, not that one. That Mars, I think. But they Mars. Had it was some. I'll have to look it up there, but it was people advertising this vehicle as a rocket power, and I'm like, oh, I get on that, of course. But it's less of a rocket and more of an air tank.
Like from years ago,
high pressure. Maybe months ago.
Oh, so there's something new.
I'll have to find it later, but
I don't know. I saw the drone looking thing that was pretty crazy looking. But I think 2023 is when they're supposed to roll out the flying cars thing with Uber. So that should be uber interesting.
Oh, yeah.
That's crazy. So all the way back around to Bitcoin and mining. So when you were mining stuff, were you able to do it just with your own mining rig on your own? Or were they doing mining pools even that early in the game?
Well, the same way that you can do solo mining even these days, but the likelihood of finding a block is so low, and the the scale definitely hit back then as well. Even though the whole network was a much smaller being, so were the miners available. So I may have been slightly more likely to find a block on my own solo mine, but I definitely used a pool. All the pools that I used to play around with, those are all defunct now. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was definitely a pool from the get-go because it was already developed. I think if I had gotten in, only earlier in 2012, I definitely could have been looking more into that. But as soon as they went from CPU and from to, was it I don't remember, it was 4 E.6. That era of things happened very quickly, mm-hmm. were able to buy it, and China got it off charts. Unlikely that you'd be able to find any solo blocks in Bitcoin.
Wow.
But during that time, that's when some of the forks started coming out, and you could definitely do a lot with those early on before their difficulty went up. But I didn't really deal with those. I saw when Litecoin came out, and then Ether, and I was, what are these things? These don't look very trustworthy. And then I started using Litecoin here and there. I'm like, okay, this is actually pretty cool. Ether took a while to John. It's like I don't know. It's funny, conflicting memories versus now, because the emotions of Ether now, it's like Ether is this huge thing. It's in this work with smart contracts and that, and it's profitable to mine. But back then, it just seemed like some kind of like some young made this thing. Oh, it's Ether. Yeah, into the Ether. Okay, cool.
Right.
That won't last. But that definitely did last. And back then it was still what is Ether Classic today. And I preferred Ether Classic personally. But Ethereum now is way, way more secure than Ether Classic, as people know, the 51% attacks and that. Tightening their security. I wouldn't be surprised after this hard fork, after Ethereum goes to POS, I would not be surprised to see Classic actually kind of grow, because it will stay on proof of work as far as I know.
Right. Yeah. You've known me for several years now, and the ups and downs that I've seen. And, I've always prefaced my confidence in ways to earn through this stuff with, unless the government blows it up first. Yeah, I think that maybe this year might be the first time I'm seeing other people actually believe the weight of that. I think even through last year and before, people were just so certain, they can't stop it. They can't, they can try, but they can't stop it. But I personally believe that just the fear of laws is enough to get enough of the big outfits willing to comply. Compliance is the thing. It's not technologically whether they can stop people from running, a program on their machines, and whether anybody would allow their governments to go that far. I'm kind of starting to think, with all the medical stuff going on, they might actually let them do it, but I would hope not. But, it seems like proof of work is always going to be the one that's under fire, but not for any real good reasons. And it's just, to me, it's been a lesson in statistics that you can make numbers do anything that you want, but it takes a great effort to remain neutral in something. And so I've tried to remain neutral on the whole POW, ESG, all the sustainability stuff, even though I personally believe that unless we know for a fact that the more people and the more energy that we're using has a direct impact on not being able to renew renewable sources, or to find cleaner solutions, or to be able to manage the level of updating grids that we need to do, which we absolutely need to do that. To me, everything that you look around, everything in nature is a signal to how to do something. And, photosynthesis says that there must be some kind of energy coming directly from the sun. Maybe we should do something with that. Water moves. Water comes in too fast and it moves an entire town. Maybe that's enough energy to do something with, So unless every resource that exists on the planet is much more finite than we think, in which case the only choice is going Elon's way to Mars, then I think that there's always some new version of something renewable. So I think proof of work is valid, because I think that one of the biggest problems that the average person has still is when you try to explain Bitcoin and they sort of kind of start getting it, they're still like, yeah, but it's imaginary. It's not real. Why would people believe in this thing if it's not real? Well, is hardware real? Are computers real?
So is your bank account.
Right. Did you put cash? I'm one of the weirdos that actually does work with cash sometimes, and some people do. But when you've got a supposed coin shortage everywhere, which means that essentially you can really only count on rounding up to $1, which is kind of a big deal. But most people, they don't even get a paper check, from wherever they work. It's auto deposit. And so, so one person, signed off on your hours and gave it a monetary value, took a chunk of it for the government, and it automatically went into your bank. And the bank's just been working with numbers ever since. Who made that real? We've all just agreed to a social contract that it's real. So,
that's a huge conversation point. Anything to do with the banking history and the illusion of money. I mean, just this week, I had an issue with my bank account, but the two things that kept working was cash and crypto. So that's what I've mostly been using this week. But the history with how banks switched over from any kind of reliable point to deliver their dollar value to. I mean, now if everyone took their money out of the bank at the same time, I think what was it, less than 15%, maybe 5% of people would end up having any money, and the rest of people would be stuck saying, what do you mean there's no money left? Well, we had to freeze your account. We had to freeze everyone out because there's no money. It's caught up in these illusionary assets that maybe exist, maybe don't, maybe overseas. So there's a big argument there for banking accountability, and that's when people are kind of hoping that crypto will bring to the banks. But that's also a big argumentation point within the crypto community, saying, that might be useful. Blockchain might be useful for banks, but don't, the whole point of crypto is that it'll work without the banks. We don't need that.
Right.
It's just, it could work well. It's just, every time you bring in centralization, and that's another, people will argue about the proof of work versus proof of stake, saying proof of work says you can have people have, too much centralization with mining. And it's like, naturally speaking, if there's a reward factor in here and accessibility, it won't go that way because it just naturally diversifies in way that, the people are saying the proof of stake will diversify. I can see centralization in proof of stake. I mean, if one person has access to those staking keys, guess what? You're in trouble with that. But I know it's far more complicated than that. Many of these topics, I think, could be entire things on their own. The stuff with POS versus POW, the banking stuff, the various subjects there. I think one thing it was about, I don't remember now, but yeah, real quick, I found that thing. Elon Musk says the Roadster will use rocket thrusters to hit 0 to 60 in 1.1 seconds. It will be safe, but very intense. That came out May 24th this year. I hear rocket thrusters and I'm like, yes, but then I go and it's actually like an air compressor kind of. It's still really impressive. I mean, I'm not trying to totally downplay that, but anyway. Oh, also real quick,
crazy.
Bitcoin SV had another 51% attack 2 days ago, from what it seems.
I saw that. So, oh boy.
Yeah. That's I think I heard you mention another stream. The BSV is the proper way to pronounce that.
It just seems like such an obvious trend. So that's what I'm trying to. I want to be the guy that starts trends, and that one just seems so obvious. But yeah, I mean, okay, we're like almost or already now at 12 years in on Bitcoin. I think that it may have been like September 3rd was the first coin mined or something. I can't remember now, but we're going on, if not already there, on 12 years of Bitcoin. If CSW were the author of the white paper, do you think 12 years later, the thing that he says is the best iteration of Bitcoin, the real Bitcoin, would be hit with 251% attacks in 2 weeks?
No.
That doesn't sound better to me.
No, that gentleman has an incredibly talented mind, but he has he definitely has a very very clear money grab personality.
Yeah, he had. Okay, we've outlined when I go back and I listen through this and get it done. I'm going to make a list of the things that we've already said are going to be their own shows because I agree, and I think that it would be really fun to discuss each of those things. This is fun, just kind of hitting the wide angle on stuff. But there's a lot to be said about all these things.
I'll try to help fill in some of the details, but I'm not very good with names, and I'm not very good with details on points of history. There's certain things I'm good at, and certain things, for some reason, just kind of have always eluded me. But I will.
Well, I'm awful.
I'll fill in where I can.
I'm awful with both of those, so we have that in common. So it should be interesting. Folks, do your own research. It may be at your peril that you take our wisdom and advice seriously.
Just have that disclaimer on the screen.
Yeah, really. We might sound smart sometimes, but it's a risky world out there. Oh, man. Well, what else, man? This is kind of on your time. I don't know when you need to take off to do other things, but I mean, I would enjoy talking a little bit longer. It's just completely up to you.
Yeah, I've got to run pretty soon, but I could probably stay for another 10 minutes or so.
Sweet, that'd be perfect.
I know I kind of hijacked the end of my answer to your questions there with the Elon stuff, but yeah, do you remember where we were going with that?
Oh, no idea. Well, we were talking about the interesting bank stuff, but I know for sure that we'll at least talk about that for 30, 40 minutes the next time. So, or one of the next times. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a lot of these, unless you're like, oh my gosh, do I have to do this again? But
no, it's fine. I just want to bring value to the table because I feel like I don't, there's certain things I know because I lived through it, but knowing it as a concept, what's relevant these days may be, old news, but we'll see.
Well, just that's the thing too, is that there's a lot of way smarter people than myself that are in this, probably long hours. Like, well, I don't know. It would be hard to believe that there's somebody spending quite as many hours as me on this, but definitely smarter hours. I do have my I'm doing accounting still. There's better accountants than me. So that right there, is an easy measure of other people doing much smarter things. But the point being that there's thousands of people watching the same things happen, and they have very different takes. And a lot of them just do not see the same things that I do not see the same concerns or the values. And so, I mean, just because I might be like ultra aware of certain things that are going on in crypto right now, I've compressed, what you probably knew, just, from a more than casual interest, 2012, 2013, to when we really started talking about it at the end of the year 2017. I compressed that interest, 2017 to 2018, big time. I had to catch up on a lot of things while also just, really reveling in the fact that there were exchanges that were options that were not there before. We got to, have fun kind of being in the midst of the whole XMRG thing exploding on itself. And we prided ourselves in actually creating a spike, intentionally manipulating the market once it was already dead to create our own spike. And then we did some of our own shill news just as a joke to try to see whether we could make something green before we cashed out of it. And I think we actually just ended up leaving it on the exchange. It's probably still on Ether Delta or something as like the one sell order that's still there or something. But just being a part of the history of it.
I remember. Oh, sorry. I remember you saying about XMRG stuff. I wasn't aware of the details of that until later. So that's enough you'll have to get into at some point, just because that's an interesting example for things that disappear. Start up overnight and disappear overnight, within
right.
within
time. Oh my gosh. And I would never do that today. When I think about what kind of actual risk that, there's so much 3-letter agency spying on all of us at this point. I mean, I would never take the kind of risk of even joking about, the pump that we did 4 years ago, because I mean, it was so insignificant and unimportant and totally a joke. But, today it could get you in real trouble for absolutely no upside. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, that's another thing about crypto that people will argue about. If you're thinking about comparing it to traditional investing and stocks and even the banking side, crypto, there are parts that people will call manipulation that are just natural market movement through people reacting to news or whatever, the various, timing, collaboration, that kind of stuff. A lot of crypto people believe should just be left to the natural hand of people doing what they're going to do. Not, not like doing any kind of rug pulls, but just letting things naturally go the way that the market would go. I think a lot of people would agree that if government is ever going to be involved in helping technologies get started up, maybe that's okay, as long as they're not doing it as a power pull thing, a power move. But then they need to step back and just let the market do its thing. Let people do their thing. Let it grow organically, and for the most part, stay out of it. That's I'm not an advocate for no government. I definitely am an advocate for smaller government.
Absolutely. It's very interesting
when
how
it comes to technologies,
Yeah, I always think about how, the real issues with different types of government and different economic views, the forgive me, not the correct, right. The Austrian school of economics versus others. My take on it is that they all are going to have a flaw because there's human nature. Our way of thinking will run towards greed and power and control if left unchecked. But I think that we have to be naturally distrustful of those who are in power, because the longer they remain there, the more they lean towards self-interests. So, technology can't exist separate from the government.
Absolute power.
Yeah, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yep.
That's it.
And on that note, no, actually, that does make kind of a good note. But yeah, I knew that this will be fun. We don't often have enough time to talk, but we entered into this crypto thing, just like really kicked it up a notch years ago, and it's been such a whirlwind. It's been really tough for us to be more consistent in talking about this stuff. But I think I always look at things from an historical, a silent N or silent H for historical perspective on things. And I think that we're living in such an incredible time in history that it would be foolish to squander the awareness of our time and to get in these fun conversations about it.
Yeah. And if you're able to help, people along the way avoid the mistakes that we've already made, that could be, hugely beneficial to somebody who's just getting into this thinking, oh no, I bought in at, like we were saying, 50.
Right.
It's all of my, my mother's investment is gone. What shall I do? Just be patient. It's supposed to come up. If this is going to repeat, and history does tend to repeat itself just constantly. If this is just going to be this could be the new floor. I mean, we were looking at what, I don't even remember how far down it dropped the other couple of weeks ago, or gosh, it might have been more than that. But we were out into, I think, the 29, maybe less than that.
The high 29s territory. I think was as slow as it went. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was just even now. It's like, oh man, that was a great time to buy in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Every time it does this stuff, I mean, a lot of the strategy that I do, it seems to me like the more diehard people are about crypto, the more they really hate traders. And I promise you, some of us are different. But the fact of the matter is that, for some people, the buy-in may be so small, what they have liquid that they're able to invest, Even doing a dollar cost average may not be as aggressive as they want to be. But if you're able to sell the top and buy the dip and not get stuck too much, then really, you're showing just as much and in some ways even more allegiance to the coins that you believe in by doing so. That'll be a really interesting conversation. But
that's a deep one, because there's a lot of angles to look at that, where some people say, well, the traders are manipulating it and it's artificially, suggesting value or not putting value in what's actually worth it. But, for the most part, people do speak with they act with where they put their money. I apologize. A lot of the terms I'm trying to use are incorrectly phrased, but that generally speaking, if people care about a project, their money's going to go into it. And that includes trading.
Absolutely.
People say, I want to buy this. I want to move this. You see the volume, for the most part, are going to do, what's best for the coins that they believe in. I wouldn't really want to hold on to a coin that I know nothing about, unless it was something I was treating as a gamble. I say, you know what, I've got $20. I'm going to put it in here. If it moons, great. If it goes away, well, you know what, I could have done that with a scratch ticket at the store, whatever. I'm just treating this as, a hopeful investment, but I'm not ever investing anything I can't afford to lose. So that's one of those rule number one: don't invest what you can't afford to lose.
Right.
That's always the step.
I think at this point that we've completely broken that rule. So you might still be following.
There's investing.
Right.
There's at least don't trade futures.
Yes. Thank you.
Don't sell the farm and then trade futures hoping to make it big. Someone is going to definitely make it, and you're not going to be the percent of people who do.
That's absolutely right. Oh, there's some really cool people in crypto that I'm pretty sure just don't talk to me at this point because of that. Because, they do lots of leveraged trading, and, they like to do their channel where they show people what they're doing, and they talk honestly about whether they took a loss or not and that kind of stuff. But they hate it when I'll come in and just point out the risk that's involved. And they're like, you don't understand. You don't understand trading, options, and you don't understand leverage. I'm like, okay, so you're telling me that nobody gets liquidated? Well, no, it's not that. It's just that, you make it sound a lot more risky. I was like, well, okay, is there a strike? Is there a number it has to hit? Or is there a number that it will liquidate if it hits that? Well, you can cash out early. Yeah, well, yeah, but cashing out early means a loss. Yes. There are, perpetual contracts where you can decide when to end it. You can take a profit. You don't have to do, what you started off at. But if you're borrowing on leverage, the more that you borrow, the narrower that band of what that coin can do becomes. And to me, anything that is a binary decision. Yeah, anything that is a binary decision is a higher risk than just saying, okay, I'm going to go in here, and once it's above my fees, anything above that is profit. That's spot trading, man.
Yeah.
I can keep my brain in that.
Yeah. If you're using stop loss on a leveraged trade, there's always a chance that, like they give you in that warning at any exchange that's, trustworthy, there's a chance that everything will be liquidated, meaning it could just go. That's always a chance. And, it's definitely closer to gambling. Some people think that stock trading or trading is like gambling. No, this leverage trading is like gambling. You really don't know if it's all going to go away or not. And yeah, you can win big. I'd avoid it because it does. I don't, if I was rolling in dough and everything was paid off, I had no debt, this and that, and everything that I needed, and sure, maybe I'd invest a little bit into the risks and potential benefits of leverage trading, but not at the beginning. That's like, that's the same reason I wouldn't put everything in Doge, especially now. Sure, maybe it'll come back, but not now. Really, you want to sell your house and put that into something that might go away overnight? No, and say, well, you could make it big overnight too. You could buy 3 houses with that. Like, yeah, but hold on, really, realistically, that the percentage likelihood of that happening is way, way, way lower,
right,
than you just having a place to live comfortably and tried to invest in more what might some people think is honest
patience.
means,
Yeah.
Patience.
Yeah. Even in the early, most aggressive days of my trading and my trying to create a strategy around trading, I looked at it as a very potentially compressed period of time because I saw all the regulation and all the different crazy stuff coming. And I felt like the risk was just going to get higher the longer that it went along. But I always really believed in allowing things to accumulate so that your trades work for you more and more over time. And my fear was always, how tough is the government and the regulations going to make it for me to get to that fun point where things have accumulated quite a bit and doing the same thing was much larger than it was before. And, unfortunately, a lot of 2018, 2019, and several key moments in 2020 were heart-stopping moments. That essentially we kept proving the same methods working over and over and over again. But, horrible atrocity events in economics happened to where we essentially were starting over and over from scratch. And if I look at what the trajectory has been, it's you can focus on that or you can move forward from that. And that might actually, that's the lesson for today's PyroJason podcast is, being early has its really exciting moments, and hindsight is 2020, or is it 2020 was a ridiculous year to use for that number. but learn the lessons from the things that you can and don't get caught up on yesterday. Try to embrace the exciting things. But I think that we're all probably still very early. If the government doesn't blow it up first, we're very, 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 very early.
Yeah, there's a quote that I liked from the president, I think that I didn't necessarily like, but his quote was, yesterday is yesterday. If we try to recapture it, we will only lose tomorrow.
Oh, I would say I like that, but I don't remember who that is. So I don't want, oh, well, I like it anyway. It's good. Yeah. Good stuff. I like it. I'm going to look it up afterward and go, oh.
Well, it was Bill Clinton, but,
Well, okay. He can play the sax and he didn't try to blow up the economy. So
Exactly. You got to look at the bright side in that, that is, it's just looking forward instead of thinking back about the losses. That's really the smartest move you can do, because aside from all of the emotional turmoil that you'll put yourself through trying to think, oh no, if I had only done that, while you're thinking about all that, 2 or 3 new opportunities just left you, and you were sitting there not pursuing them. So
absolutely
look around,
Very true. Yeah, I think that's a good note for us to end this podcast on. Words of wisdom from the Pyro Man himself. So I enjoyed
I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, man. I think that, if you were even up to doing this like twice a week, I think it would be really fun.
Yeah, we could look into that.
Okay.
Right now, schedule's kind of crazy, but definitely something we could look into. And I think things will kind of become more stable. Hopefully next week. I'm hoping.
Sounds cool. Yeah, and we'll try to do some of this stuff. I know that when the Crypto Cringe guys are able to try to do more with their stream, you'll try to pop in there sometimes as well. But we'll spread it out some and try to do more of this. The thing that I look at with crypto is, I think about what I'm looking to gain from it, regardless of the kind of work that I do. And I believe in building communities. And it's not necessarily an easy thing to do, but I would love to feel like as the years go on that we are kind of building deeper and deeper into there being a sense of community, feeling like we're in the culture of this thing that we're a part of. I believe that, like spiritually for, my beliefs, I believe in being more in that in our time. And, crypto is one of those things that whether it's your anti-disestablishmentarianism, libertarian mindset, or, power to the people, or, whichever angle people have gotten into, we're a special breed, us crypto folk. So, that's kind of my aim is just, I want to be, if I'm going to spend time on it, then I want to be more a part of it. So that's what I hope to embrace with this stuff.
Yeah. That's whatever you are, be a good one.
There you go. See, you're the condenser man. That's right. It's like, I hear you saying that long thing, and here's a short version of it. That's good.
Sometimes you need the long thing because you could get the SparkNotes version, but you're not going to retain the value necessarily.
I don't know, man. I need a long runway. I've been reminded of that on more than one occasion. So I would like to be one of those airplanes that goes straight up, annoy fewer people.
It's called a rocket.
The big military one? I don't know. Yeah. Looks like an airplane, kind of hovers around. In fact, it's probably called, no, it's not a hovercraft. Divergence. Well, PyroJason, my friend, I'm going to let you go for now. And thanks so much for spending the time on this thing. It was really, really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It was.
All right, cool, man. I will be talking to you soon.
Sounds good. I look forward to hearing from you. Talk to you then.
Cool. All right. Bye. And as always, thank you so much for listening, and looking forward to share with you again soon. This is Crypto Gordon Freeman. For now, out.